Next up, we're going to cover one of the most commonly used pieces of TypeScript, which is the interface or interfaces. Now, I'm going to tell you right up front, everything you're going to see in this video and the next couple videos is going to seem like something we can already do. And that's because it actually is. Interfaces are very similar to type aliases, which we've already seen. We saw that I can use a type keyword and then define maybe like the shape of a point object, right? And then we just would say it has to have a number called x, and y is also a number. This right here, this type alias, is a custom type called point that describes the shape of an object. It has an x and a y, and they're both numbers. And then we can use that in functions or in variables, right? Const pt for point of type point equals this object. And if I mess up and have a string, I get yelled at, right? Or if I'm missing y, I'll get yelled at. Okay, so that's all recap. But I say this because we're going to learn how to do the exact same thing with interfaces, and that might seem odd. And frankly, it is a little bit weird how much similarity there is between interfaces and type aliases. We're going to have a separate video on this, and it's probably the most commonly asked question on TypeScript on the entire internet, aside from maybe some like installation problems. So I ask you to ignore the fact that we know type aliases, ignore your questions about why would you do this or that. They're both very similar until we get to the end of this section. So for now, let's talk interfaces. Interfaces allow us to describe the shape of objects and only objects. So objects that have different properties and even methods in there, that is what an interface helps us describe. And the syntax looks like this. We use the interface keyword and then the name of our interface, and we don't have an equal sign, right? So it's not like defining a type or type alias. We're defining an interface, so interface person and then curly braces, and then we have our property, name, and then the corresponding type. So this interface says in order for an object to be a person, in order to fulfill the requirements, it has to have a name property that's a string and an age property that's a number. So we could rewrite our type alias for point and make it an interface instead, just like this. Interface point, curly braces, x is a number, and y is a number. And then we can use it just like we use any other type. Except remember, this is only for objects. So I can't make an interface, for like a union type, but I can use a type alias for that. But we're only focused on objects at the moment. Interfaces describe the shape of objects. In this case, anything that is a point must have an x, that's a number, and a y, that's a number. And there we go. It behaves the same way as our type alias we defined earlier. So that's the very basics of an interface. Again, hold your questions. Don't worry about the fact that they seem like they do the exact same thing, because we'll get there. But the main takeaway for this video is that we use the interface keyword followed by a name and then curly braces. And then we define our different properties and their types that anything that implements this interface must follow. So it's the shape of an object. We also can use commas in here or semicolons. If I leave them off, my editor puts semicolons in. I think you'll see semicolons more often, but you can get away with either. This is not an object, remember. This is curly braces, but it's TypeScript. And all this is going to go away when we turn it into JavaScript anyway.